Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. Protecting what you have against frivolous lawsuits and unjust judgments, unlawful seizure, would seem to be important, yet most Americans just aren't interested in asset protection. But why not? Maybe it's because over 70% of Americans have no assets, and 20% of those are technically bankrupt. Only 9%, just 9% of Americans have an investment net worth of over $100,000. And if you're in the top 3% who have more than $500,000 in investment net worth, you are viewed as rich. Now in the U.S., the rich find themselves increasingly disparaged and under attack to spread their wealth around. There are plenty of people, organizations, and government agencies greedily eager to help those who have join those who have not. Increasingly, protecting what you've worked hard to accumulate deserves much more attention. Now, traditionally, one of the best protection vehicles is a retirement plan. ERISA retirement plans, those covered by the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, including defined benefit plans, 401k plans, 403b plans, money purchase pension plans, and profit sharing plans, are beyond the reach of most creditors. Up until a few years ago, the same protection didn't apply to IRAs, which were subject to creditor seizure in many states. In 2005, the Supreme Court ruled that IRAs enjoyed the same protection as ERISA plans. The 2005 changes to the federal bankruptcy laws limit that protection to the first $1 million. Now, this is important. One of the best ways, then, to protect your IRA assets from a judgment is to open a self-directed IRA and have the custodian transfer all of the IRA assets into an LLC domiciled in a state like, say, South Dakota. It's one of the few states that limit the reach of creditors to a charging order, preventing creditors from forcing a liquidation of the assets. Now, of course, this is important to do if your IRA has over $1 million in it, and therefore that portion would be subject to creditor attack. However, not all IRAs are created equal, especially one that you inherit. Several recent court cases have determined that an inherited IRA doesn't qualify as a retirement plan, so it no longer qualifies for creditor protection. Listen to this. An Indiana man inherited an IRA worth under $1 million and later filed bankruptcy. He claimed his inherited IRA was exempt from creditors, citing Indiana law that exempts an interest in a retirement fund or plan from attack. The court disagreed, saying that an inherited IRA is not a retirement plan. There's another similar case in Florida that resulted in a similar decision. Now, to make matters even more confusing, which they often are when you start dealing with law and technicalities, courts in California and Ohio have taken an opposite view and ruled that inherited IRAs are retirement plans and therefore protected from creditors. Undoubtedly, this issue is going to waffle around in the court system for many years, ending up in the lap of the Supreme Court. Until it's resolved, though, what should you do to protect an inherited IRA from creditors? Well, if your inherited IRA is small, or you live in a state like Ohio or California, where the courts view an inherited IRA as a retirement plan, there's probably nothing that you need to do. But if your inherited IRA is substantial, or you live in a state that has not tried the issue, you may want to consider establishing a self-directed IRA, as I said earlier, and placing all of the assets into an LLC. Another strategy suggested by Ed Slott, who's editor of the IRA Advisor newsletter, is to name a trust as the beneficiary of an IRA. He says an IRA left to a properly drafted trust may avoid creditors' claims no matter how the courts rule on inherited IRAs held outright. Now, whatever you decide, if you have an inherited IRA or an IRA worth over $1 million, I think it makes a lot of sense to take steps today to protect it. It's important to guard your retirement assets from those who would like to help you join the 70% of Americans who have nothing. Thanks for listening.